Welcome back to Unleash Your Amazing Leadership. I'm your host, Tammy Ebright, and today is going to be more about my own personal leadership journey and the close out of season 1. I've had some incredible guests so far, and I'm getting ready to start recording season 2 to continue that. So it will be back in January. But today marks 13 years since my husband, David, suddenly passed away. Um, and each year I reflect on the lessons and the growth that I've had for that year. Always still trying to kind of make sense of the chaos. Um, over the last decade, I have really been learning not just tools and techniques or different mindsets, but it's really about been learning something much deeper and far more essential. It's really been learning about how to trust myself, like building my own self trust after loss. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't always trust myself. In the rawest season of my grief, I let people into my life that my instincts were warning me about. And, your instincts only speak once, and it's a really quiet, like, hey, don't do that. Or, oh, yeah, you should do that. And I ignored that quiet voice inside of me that said, something's off. And I adapted. It was out of some people pleasing tendencies that I had. And in doing so, I stepped away from my own integrity, not because I was weak, but because I'm human. And so today I wanted to share with you, it's not a story of trauma, but it's a story of awakening and the path that I'm supposed to be on, more of a realignment with purpose. And so, what does happen when we don't trust ourselves? Excuse me, I have a little something in my throat this morning. So, our intuition, as I said, speaks softly and it only speaks once, but our fear, it speaks much louder. And grief, overwhelm, and pressure can sometimes keep us stuck or put us off track. And when we're vulnerable, we can confuse familiarity with trust and override our own instincts. So, lesson 1, something that I've really learned throughout this last 13 years is the first instinct is always correct for me. How somebody makes me feel when I first meet them, that is my truth. And so our intuition is so fast. It's like, whew. And the mind is slow and it's full of stories, paradigms, other people's beliefs. And that's where we really can get thrown off track. If something feels off, you need to take that in as information, not just dismiss it. And I think the hardest thing about learning to trust your intuition is, when you trust it and you listen to that feedback, it protects you. But you don't really know for sure that it protected you from something. Where when you ignore it, you get some like literal smackdowns, sometimes figuratively, but in my experience, a lot of those smackdowns were very literal. And so your intuition doesn't really predict the future, it protects you in real time. And so, lesson 2 that I learned is trauma scrambles our intuition, and that's normal. There's nothing wrong with this. We didn't do anything. We're not to blame. We didn't call that into us. But when you're grieving and your clarity goes offline, that doesn't mean your instincts are gone. It means that they need time to stabilize and to reset, figure out what the new normal is for you. So some signs that you're abandoning yourself is you might feel uneasy, but try to rationalize it away. Your behavior shifts to keep other people comfortable, and you say yes when your body's like kind of moving away and saying no. You might even downplay your own needs. So, just being aware of some of those signs if they come up for you, that will really help you understand that, your trauma has really scrambled your intuition. And, we have trauma comes in so many different ways. It's not always just about, losing somebody we love. It can be job loss. It can be divorce. It can be, the loss of, a friend, or, an extended family member, or even, God forbid, the loss of a child. So trauma can look very different. And I think it's important to not minimize somebody else's trauma that you don't understand. And so lesson 3 is people can feel familiar without actually being safe. And so what does that mean? Familiarity isn't trust. Trust is when your body feels safe without effort. And self trust comes when you decide to stop overriding your own intuition, to start listening to those little messages that come when you're with people, or a situation comes and your intuition is like, oh, hey, this is fun, or I don't know. And your body almost, when your intuition is like telling you not to do something, your body almost starts kind of repelling against it, but your mind might be like, oh, hey, you're wrong. Don't, give them a chance. And I think sometimes that comes from some of the lessons and the people that we were around when we were younger. But self-leadership and self-trust comes when we can override those past beliefs that we were taught, and learn what feels right and feels safe for us, what feels safe for your own body. And so, how we come back to ourselves is really, self trust begins when you decide to stop overriding your intuition, as I said, but clarity begins whenever we stop forcing ourselves to be okay. Like if you've had like a job loss, or a loss of a loved one, or any other trauma, a car accident, when you do the actual work of focused healing, not stuffing it down, but like opening it up and saying, okay, I'm not okay. And I'm not going to keep pretending I'm okay. I'm going to do the work to heal myself. And for me, it took a long time for me to actually do the work, because I did listen to a lot of well meaning advice that was like, oh, hey, you just got to find somebody else. And, I did give that a good effort. And in retrospect, I really kind of wish that I had done that healing work first, because you have to heal in order to be your best self for that next person. And regardless, you got to do the healing. We can pretend that we're okay, and that will serve us for a little while, but grief wants to be it wants to be seen. It wants to be felt. It wants to be worked through. And so the sooner you start doing that work, the sooner you're going to have healing and be on the other side of that. And so lesson 4 is trust isn't learned through perfection. Now, I think many times, and especially my past self, I mean, I am a Virgo. I have a little bit of perfectionist tendencies. And so I had to really learn to give myself a lot of grace, that I was not healing in the perfect way. And I think that that comes sometimes from other people's expectations. And their expectations, mm, it's not because they're wrong and you're right. Like I think that we have to get away from this, it's got to be this way or that way. But it comes more from what's right for you. And what's right for you and what's right for me can be completely different. And so, understanding, learning your own energetic makeup, for me, that has been so life changing. Like, it has built so much self trust in myself of things that, I dismissed most of my life. And so self trust really grows every time you recalibrate, not every time you get it right. We all make mistakes. We're human. It's part of the human process. So, learning to give yourself grace for your perceived mistakes and start looking at mistakes as lessons instead. What am I learning in this moment? What is this teaching me? And so, some leadership lessons from self trust are leaders who trust themselves make other people feel safe. Authenticity is more powerful than confidence. The courage to leave a misaligned situation is leadership. And that might be a relationship, that might be a job, that might be a friendship. All kinds of things like can be very misaligned with us as we grow, as we evolve. And the best leaders are really forging in this moment where they had these tough choices and they chose themselves first, because you cannot give from an empty cup. And energetically, we are moving into this time of the sleeping phoenix. And we're seeing a lot of the individual rise. And that's because we're moving in a time that's going to be more about interdependency. And we're leaving back a time that has been about codependency. And so, what I just encourage you today is, if you are feeling stuck or burnt out, like leaning into your own gifts, your own interdependency. And that is just taking one little step at a time. It's not massive. It's saying no when you mean no, and saying yes when you mean yes. And when you're not sure, it might be more like, let me think about that. And lesson 5 is your instincts are not random, they're body intelligence. And so what does that mean? Your body just knows things that your mind cannot conceptualize. I could tell you many stories of, my instincts saying, mm-mm, and then my mind overriding it, and me, literally getting dropped on my head, or, getting surrounded by a pack of dogs and bit after my intuition, said this quiet message, hey, let your dogs out before going to the mailbox. Like, so our intuition, it speaks very, very quietly, but what I want you to really remember, and I think Taylor Swift said something around this, like, treat your energy, and I'm paraphrasing, right? Treat your energy as like it's precious. Like, not everybody deserves access to it. You do not owe anybody access to your energy. You are allowed to pause when something feels right or somebody feels wrong. I mean, you're alerted to pause whenever something feels off, or somebody feels off. And your body, it just knows things. It always tells you the truth. You're not here to perform. You're here to be real. And the more real you can be, the more authentic you can be, the better. And that doesn't mean that you're not modifying your communication style for comfort from time to time when you're in a situation with new people and you're getting to know them, understanding that at the end of the day, your true self is always shining through, whether you realize it or not. Integrity is not about being perfect. It's about stopping the moment you realize that you're abandoning yourself. And that can be really hard. And that, I think, is also like a life lesson, that's something we're always striving to. Self-trust is really the foundation of every powerful life, relationship, and leadership journey. And you don't rebuild your life by being strong. You rebuild your life by being honest. So honest is about what feels right and what feels wrong, who feels aligned and who feels not aligned. What does your body say when you meet somebody? That first feeling, is it like, "Ooh, I'm curious," or is it like, "Ooh, that's a lot for me"? So learning to really listen to that. So my journey over these last 13 years wasn't about becoming fearless or perfect, because I am far from perfect. It's really been learning about trusting the quiet places inside me, that one little whisper, long before I was brave enough to listen. So you can come home to yourself too. One instinct, one boundary, one act of integrity at a time. David taught me how to love. Life taught me how to trust myself. And I am really grateful for both. So if today's episode resonates with you, here's my invitation. Pause this week, even just once, and listen to that whisper inside that's like, yeah, I like this, or no, this really worries me. And the tiny first instinct, that soft yes, or that subtle no, trust it, act on it, honor it, even if nobody else understands it. And if something in this episode really resonates with you today, I hope that you will share it with somebody who might need that reminder. Because the more that we trust ourselves, the more powerful, aligned, and liberated our leadership can be. Thank you for being here and watching this. Thanks for listening, and thank you for walking your own path and supporting me on my path. Until next time, keep unleashing your amazing leadership. Thanks.